You ready? You ready? Okay. All right. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is after 10 o'clock. Doing roll call, it looks like all three districts are represented here. Notice of this meeting for policy and governance was properly posted on January 6th, 2023. Agenda item number 1, approval of minutes. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of the minutes of December 20th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I will actually abstain since I was not part of that meeting, but motion carries. Yes. Did that go through? Okay. All right. Departmental items. Item number 2, discussion and possible action for the election of chairman and vice chairman of policy and governance for the calendar year 2023. Do we have any discussion?
I will nominate you, Brandy, to be chairman, policy and governance.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. None opposed. Motion carries.
All right, let's go with Chelsea as the vice.
All right. We have a motion for Chelsea for a vice, and I will go ahead and second that. Any discussion? All right.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as your chairman. I will certainly do what is in the best interests of the county. Okay, so did you need me to? Thank you very much. Okay. So before we get into the ARPA discussions, and just, you know, as part of me being the new kid on the block, I hope that you both will indulge me. I would actually like to skip around the agenda, if you don't mind. And if we could, before we get into the ARPA discussions, go ahead and scroll down to number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding selection of the January 2023 BOCC Employees of the Month and the 2022 BOCC Employee of the Year.
Good morning. You have before me the 3 candidates, option A, B, and C, for those that may be chosen for Employee of the Month of January 23. And you also have a list of all the Employees of the Month of the Year of 2022. We need to choose one for 2022, and then we need to choose 2 for the 2023 Employee of the Month.
Okay.
And I didn't number that list, did I?
Option A, B, and C?
On the Employee of the Year.
Oh, no. But I do have a question.
Okay.
Just because I haven't been part of this process before, as far as the Employee of the Year, is there any particular process in which this is determined other than just, you know, a particular ask from a particular department, or is it done randomly? How is this?
It's been done randomly in the past.
Okay.
Yes. And it's been agreed upon by the 3 people sitting on this committee.
Okay. Well, what do y'all think?
You want to do Employee of the Month first?
Sure.
Okay.
I will nominate option C for Employee of the Month.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion for one more.
We have 2 for the month.
Okay. I will motion for option A.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for option A and option C. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Now the hard one. Employee of the Year out of your list.
Okay, so KK,
Yes.
they would be in alphabetical. A through, number 1 on the list would be A. The last candidate there would be V. So if you just number them off that way.
Okay.
Okay. So would we be amenable to sort of just throw these all in a hat and have a drawing for the winner?
I would be amenable to deferring to the next meeting if that's possible.
Okay.
Possible.
It's possible.
KK,
Yes.
I like Chelsea's idea. And if we could get, in addition to the name, if you could provide us with the nomination form so we can refresh our memories.
Be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
So we have a motion to defer employee of the year. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is. Yep. The Employee of the Month will need to be stricken as well.
Oh,
So we don't really need to do a motion. We'll just defer that item. Yes. We don't really need to make a motion.
We don't-
and-
Cool.
so we can vote on one and defer the other? Okay.
Thanks, Gretchen.
All right. So we have a motion to defer the selection of the 2022 Employee of the Year. In a second?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 And then we need to receive these documents, I believe.
Yes. And so we also need a motion to receive the documents.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second to receive documents. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Karen. I think also we should,
I have number 9.
yes, go ahead and move into number 9.
At last month's meeting, we talked about the training, the entry-level driver training program that we're needing to get our drivers trained under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety. And below, I've provided you with a document that talks about the 3 options. Option 1, we could send to a VOTEC, which costs about $5,000 for each employee we send through there, plus the off time to send them for 4 weeks. Option 2, we checked for like a commercial one, American Truck Training, is $7,695 to send one employee. Again, you would need to be away from work for 4 weeks to obtain that. Option 3 is a new development. We've been with the public safety and with their auditor, and they have found out that we can be registered as a training location. We just can't charge anybody else for training, for instance. But we can become a trainer. We can keep the documents in-house. We can run the program once we become a training entity with the federal motor carriers, and it doesn't cost us anything additional to do that.
Okay.
So at this point, we're kind of needing which way that you want us to go with the people to get their CDL training.
Okay, so first we'll need a motion to receive the documents. So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Yeah. there-
So Karen, then I would assume that this would be a full-time employee of the county. Do I understand that right?
Not necessarily. They're probably already a full-time employee with the county. We'll probably go ahead and have one of our seasoned truck drivers be named that at each district so that they will be the on-the-hands course. The book course, which we think we'll be able to do online through LTAP. So they're not going to have to go to Stillwater or whatever to attend that week class. They'll be able to do it online is what LTAP is looking to do at this time. I'm sending Dawn and Brad, who's back with us now, up to LTAP next week to attend the LTAP class to get more specific details on it. But this is what the auditor from the CDL coordinator gave us could
So
do.
then, as I understand it, we would have a designated person in each district.
Yes,
So we would have essentially three people available to perform this sort of training.
yes. And then we would have Brad, which is in our office, who's over the safety of the districts. He will manage the program and the paperwork and documentation.
Have you identified those people in each district?
We have not done that yet because we were waiting to get approved which direction we wanted to go. But I'm sure every district has somebody that's been here at least 15, 20 years to be the trainer.
I would venture to say that.
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's the cost savings we're looking at for option 3?
It doesn't cost us anything for option 3. We have no out of money pocket except for sending them, if they were to have to go to class to do the book part of it, would. But my understanding is that they're going to put it online and they can actually set a computer at the office and do the training online. But there's no cost at this point to us.
And KK, if we fail to do this, then in our recruitment process, we're looking for somebody that already has a CDL, which we have a difficult time already getting truck drivers at times.
That is correct.
And it would also prevent us from utilizing the opportunity to gain a CDL as a means of moving up within the organization.
That is correct, yes. We had a pretty good recruitment for District 1 recently. We probably had 10 CDL people that applied, but where we got to that, they wanted to be paid very well for their CDL and their endorsements, and we weren't able to get a couple of them on board because of that. But we have lots of people that we hire to be laborers that look at this as a place to move up professionally, learn how to operate the equipment, get a CDL. And usually those are the ones that stay with us forever and become, people till they retire. But they know what they're doing and they get that opportunity to come in and build a career with the county.
So how often do you feel like that scenario actually takes place where we have the opportunity to essentially promote with them?
Well, that's really hard because of the turnover rate. District 2, as you know, we have issues trying to keep laborers out there to develop them into truck drivers.
Yes.
But I would say District 2, probably 3 or 4 a year if we find someone really good that's a laborer. District 1, we don't lose very many truck drivers. There may be 2 a year we'll need to use the program for. And District 3 right now is needing, I believe, 3 or 4 truck drivers. So it just varies month to month as to how many we would need that for. But we need to have the program in place to get them into that role.
So essentially, when this designated person is going through the training process with somebody to get them certified, is that essentially going to be like their full-time job for a period of time? What does that period of time entail that actually pulls them away from various road projects or whatever else they might be doing?
In the past, the way they've done that is they put like a laborer with a truck driver. They let them go out, teach them how to drive hands-on. And most of the time it's on their current assignments, current jobs. We've never designated one truck driver to mentor and get them to a CDL status, but usually you're assigned to one person and they help you get the training you need to do the in-person driving, like the pre-trip inspection, and if you can drive a stick shift. And then if you want to get the endorsements, we can go through with that as well. But we've never had just one person go, okay, you're the truck driver, you can't be on a job.
Right.
It's been on the job because that's the way they learn it better. Learn how to bucket, how to back up a dump truck, how to dump a load on uneven surface, those kind of things.
So they'd essentially be doing both jobs concurrently.
Yes, it's on the job.
Perfect.
Yep. Any other questions?
I think it's a no-brainer to move forward with option C, or option 3, excuse me.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and motion for that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Just get with
Right.
Brian to determine who he'd like to use. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So, before we go into any ARPA discussions as far as specific asks, I did, if you'll indulge me, would like to go into agenda item number 10. That discusses the policies and processes and procedures. Because I did, but before we entertained the different asks that I saw on the agenda, because I'm the new kid on the block, I kind of wanted to wrap my head around the processes in which these things have been tackled previously, just so, everybody's on the same page and that we could move forward together. So do you have an update related to item number 10?
I do, and I
Okay.
agree. It's a good material to get out in front of some of the other conversations that we'll have in this meeting. Do we have the deck handy by chance? And the first thing I'm going to talk about is our proposed for the portal. So creating a public-facing site similar to what we did for the internal portal to take internal county requests, something that's exposed to the public that can intake requests for funding from the community-based projects. So we took the specs from that internal portal, kind of retooled it for that potential public portal. This involved tailoring a lot of the upfront messaging. I don't have anything to show on this yet. Kind of premature on the deck on my part. Sorry about that. Tailoring some of the upfront messaging to be more applicable to those potential requesters, those would-be requesters, as opposed to the internal county departments, and adding some additional resources for uniform guidance and a link to our own compliance framework that we developed with purchasing and others. So we'll then ask them for information about who is requesting the funds, including questions that map to our risk assessment. And this is a key difference from the internal project. So just trying to collect as much of that information as possible up front at the front end of the process as we're evaluating just the basic checks in the process of who might be eligible, who might be high risk, low risk, et cetera. We'll then collect information about the project, things like funding, capital expenditures, a description, the justification for it, et cetera. Very similar fields to what we used in the internal application. And the project info is followed by compliance components, which is also a new add. So things that we built out in our compliance framework, and again, just trying to get in front of those components of the process and get as much of that information in the front end as possible. This is as they pertain to final rule guidance, and is very similar to what we have in the compliance framework, of course. For the evaluation section, we removed a lot of the attributes that were very internal county project specific, and we'll otherwise look to P&G members to help us develop the evaluation criteria according to your county and or district priorities. We have some ideas on that. We'll share those with you and have a little bit of a back and forth in developing those criteria. And then lastly, we modified some of the disclaimers that are at the bottom of the form, adding one about uniform guidance and And then we removed the ability to attach documents. Temporarily, for the moment, this is more out of security concerns, cybersecurity concerns, and the ability to intake that type of information and data. We'll have to work with the county IT on that function and how we might be able to work around that. Some questions for P&G to consider. First of all is time box. So our plan was to make this go live to coincide with the District 2 and District 3 community sessions in the middle of February. The question is, we want to, it's best practice to time box how long it's open, whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever you think is best. We don't need to commit to anything now, but we can talk through it on an individual basis with the districts. And, based on the unknown volume of requests, we'll kind of package those up and present them to P&G after they've been triaged by us for just the basic information. And then, doing something like notifying the applicants within 10 business days or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a message that goes along with the actual submission of the application, an automatic message that they'll receive acknowledging that it was received and setting some expectations in that way. So we'll have to retool some of that messaging too.
Quick question.
Yes.
In terms of packaging those up, we have identified basically 7 buckets, right? Public health, negative economic impacts, services to disproportionately impacted communities, premium paid, which is eligible for those within the community.
Yes.
And then there's the infrastructure aspect, the revenue replacement administrative, not necessarily applicable in this instance, right?
Correct.
So your thought would be that those would be packaged into those buckets as you're presenting.
Absolutely, yeah. So one of the questions we'll ask is like, what expenditure category they anticipate this project falling into. They may not get it right exactly, but at least it helps them go through the thought process of what this might look like and what the requirements are associated with that specific expenditure category, because they're all kind of different.
And am I recalling correctly that there's greater emphasis put on services or programs to the disproportionately impacted areas, and those are identified by census tract? Is that right?
Yeah, and that's kind of some of the criteria that we are going to propose to you are aligned with the final rule in that way. So kind of in the spirit of the final rule, things like, are they targeting disenfranchised communities? Are they hearing voices from impacted groups? Are they responding to literally COVID-19?
So they're in the spirit of the rule or they're follow the rule?
Well, it could be both.
Well, there's, right, if the rule is the rule, you have to follow that, right? There is some latitude, right? Like I've said a million times, this taking and reimbursing us for things that the general fund allows, right? I've talked about the spirit of the rule. It's
Sure.
technically allowable if you reach a certain threshold, correct? Of documentation. You can do that,
Right.
but does it meet the spirit of the rule?
And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Like
all
we
right.
can set this criteria however y'all want to
So-
set it.
It will be the rule and then other criteria that fit within the rule. That
Right.
would be, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So on the evaluation criteria, I was going to make a few points there. I'll go ahead and do that too. So just in anticipation of expecting worst case scenario, we get a high volume of requests, and presumably that volume will exceed the amount of funding we have available to dole out to people. So we'll have to triage them to some extent. We'll do that at a very basic, fundamental level before we package it up and present it to you, just for the most basic things, like did they answer all the questions, for example. Making no judgments or evaluations about the project itself or its potential benefits to the county or anything like that. Those are your decisions. We'll have some suggestions to share, like I just said, about how members may put these in perspective within the context of the final rule, and shaping them to be more in the spirit of, or if they're literally just like technically following the guidance as Joe is alluding to. But otherwise, it's at the discretion of this body. It can be as simple as needed as well, including commissioner offices just making the call themselves, or it could be more robust than that. The most important thing is consistency, and that whatever method we use here is what we apply to others, that is repeatable.
Stephen, when we looked at doing the survey,
Mhm.
right, we went out and we found some examples of things that other communities had done. Is that what you're anticipating doing here in terms of the application itself and the evaluation steps? Are you going to borrow from your experience that you have with other jurisdictions in doing this and present that to us as a starting point, or?
Yeah, exactly. And that's if you want to do a more robust evaluation process and selection criteria.
Okay. When do you anticipate we might see that first example?
We can give it over to you right after this meeting. Okay, and then lastly, just depending on the approach to that point that P&G members want to take for community-based projects, all this can flex and be adjusted as needed to best fit whatever approach and strategy y'all choose to move forward with.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, and forgive me if these are very simplistic, but I'm a fresh pair of eyes looking at these things. First of all, the first thing that is glaring to me is that, I mean, I understand the process for the portal, and I understand in a month or so that might be an avenue in which those that are eligible to apply can. But what I'm seeing now is that we have several agenda items on today's agenda for discussion for such recipients to receive some ARPA funds. So if we were to proceed with those, I feel like there would be a little bit of inconsistency. If we were to go ahead and deal with those on an individual basis as it is now, but then also open the portal and direct others to go apply for the portal, I would like to be consistent all around. If we're going to indulge these asks today and not have them go through the portal, I feel like then we need to do that with everybody. And so, how much do we have remaining in the ARPA funds?
7.9 million remains that has not been authorized by the VOCC.
Okay. And are we all in agreement? And I'm just assuming that because you guys have taken the opportunity through much of last year to facilitate and designate a lot of these funds to internal asks. And all of the internals have had the opportunity to go through their asks. You guys have vetted all of those, and now the internal portal is closed. Is it safe to assume that this remaining balance would be ideal to go out into the community? And I ask that because, and I don't know if we can do it this way or if there's a way to finagle this, but in light of the whole portal conversations and you anticipating opening that up, what if we were to take the remaining balance and designate that evenly amongst the 3 districts? And then that gives us all equal opportunity and equal voice to be able to provide needs in our respective areas, and then not have to deal with the portal and that whole process.
So, I've been trying to get money set aside since the beginning of this process. I'm glad you guys are willing to consider it now that we have $7.9 million of 154 left. I have 2 items on here, actually 3.
Right.
2 of those are countywide projects. The The one with the County Home Finance Authority in Oklahoma City is a trust,
Mhm.
just like we've been sending money left and right over to the jail trust. So I believe that one we could consider today. The other is a partnership or a possible partnership with the state of Oklahoma to help bring Griffin Memorial here, which would greatly benefit all of the citizens of Oklahoma County. So I think that one should be considered in a little different light. And finally, the last one simply reserves $4 million and we can figure out the rest from there.
Mhm.
So if you want to divide up 4 million 3 ways, we could consider that.
Well,
You want to
and-
wait till the portal's open,
right.
we have $4 million.
So we also have to consider, I believe that District 3 has some asks on here as well. I know of which Kevin Calvi had initiated in his last BOCC meeting. So you have District 1 has some asks on the table. District 3 has some asks on the table.
Those asks of District 3 could be considered within the $4 million. Those are asks to independent
Mhm.
nonprofits or organizations, whereas the ones that I've put on, one of them specifically deals with the Trust of the County, which we've already funded
Mhm.
similarly situated organizations. And the second has to do with, as I said, bringing Griffin Memorial here in partnership with the state.
Mhm.
So, we just voted $40 million for a behavioral health center to try to address some of that crisis.
Right,
Having
absolutely.
Griffin here would also help.
Absolutely.
So,
And I would like to take the opportunity to seriously consider all of the asks. But I feel like if we are going to go through a portal process in efforts of being consistent and fair, I feel like we would have to defer all of these until that process opens. Because, we can't, I feel like we've got to be consistent.
we're gonna take requests from a beneficiary of the Trust of the County
Mhm.
and fund those. But now we have one from another beneficiary of the trust and we're not, because I thought you said you wanted consistency.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I feel like
So
we should take
there's
the
not consistency
opportunity.
in those two.
Well,
feel-
and to be fair, we already gave 15 million to this trust, the Home Finance Authority. That's what you're referring to, correct?
We didn't give them 15 minutes. They haven't had any money out of ARPA.
They got 15 million early on.
They received money from CARES, which is a different pot of money, and they received a direct allocation twice, I believe, from the emergency rental assistance, which is a different program than what we're talking about here today. So
I think
yes,
that should
have
be
they
taken
received
into
money? They have.
consideration.
And I believe they've expended all of those funds helping the community.
Our understanding is they have not.
How much, Jared? If you've got some left, is that right?
We expect all of those dollars to have been expended as of 12/30.
Yeah.
So you expect them to be expended by 12/31, you said?
They were expended as of 12/30.
So all that money's gone.
Yeah, all of that money's gone, it's accounted for.
Mhm.
And again, that was a separate, distinct program. And then we paid out those dollars based on those criteria that were established in the final treasury rule, which is, of course, is what is governed in all of them. So that at the time that those allocations were paid, the county did not feel that very specifically. So they allocate those ERA funds to Maine's employee to be able to mention that side, that way we can have sufficient contract term paying funds.
Well, and I certainly feel, everything that's on this agenda as far as asks and various needs, they're all valid. I mean, we all know how much need we have in our communities. And I'm all about trying to, satisfy as many needs as we can. But I wanted to be very consistent about the process in which we do that. And so I know District 1's had the opportunity to present some asks. District 3 has had the opportunity. District 2 has not had the opportunity or taken the opportunity. We were actually holding back because we thought we were going to follow the process of the whole portal application when it goes live next month.
Okay, so District 1 until today has not presented anything. And in terms of ask, I'm not asking that money be sent to individual nonprofits, businesses, organizations, etc. I'm asking that we partner with governmental entities
Mhm.
to have an impact in the community. There's a real difference there.
Well, sure.
And again, if you want to be consistent, then we should consider requests from our beneficiary trust. We've already sent, I don't know how many millions of dollars out the door to a trust.
Mhm.
Had you wanted to treat that separately, we should have told them no from the beginning.
Well,
But-
and I'm not suggesting that we don't consider what District 1 has put on the agenda. I'm not suggesting that at all. I think we should consider it. I think it is a worthy way to expend these funds. What I'm suggesting is that we designate a third of the remaining balance, the 7.9, evenly across the 3 districts, and just allows us to designate the portion of those funds. And of course, this is all based on the recipients. They go through a risk assessment process. They are certainly vetted and considered.
Yeah, and I appreciate you calling that out. That's why I came up to the front. All of the entities that are on today's agenda, whether dollars are set aside for them now or later, have not undergone a risk assessment and have not been vetted through our department for eligibility criteria. So I want to caveat that anything that is set
certainly be a
aside
caveat.
could potentially, like if it's not an eligible use, you would not be able to fund those things.
And that asking to set aside money, whether it's for Griffin potentially or for housing, to set that money aside, awaiting that process is not unlike anything that we've done, especially recently, the $40 million for the behavioral health center, right?
Sure.
We have significant hoops that we have to get through to justify with Treasury the expenditure of those funds.
Since we're getting into things that may
So again,
go out of the county, I just wanted to call it out. That
What
way an
I'm proposing
organization
is not
doesn't think they
inconsistent
have the
with what we've
dollars
done.
and they don't.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
The only reason I wanted to call it out is because we're moving into a territory that will include entities outside of the county.
Right.
And I don't want there to be any perception that those are guaranteed and agreed
Yes.
upon dollars when they may not.
So we should certainly understand that all of these should go through the similar, risk assessment
But-
protocol, and make sure that they are all absolutely eligible to
I don't
receive
know
these
that I
funds.
can be any more clear. Oklahoma County Home Finance Authority is a beneficiary of the county. So that is not an outside the county project. Partnering potentially with the state of Oklahoma and the city of Oklahoma City or other municipal jurisdictions is not an outside entity of the, right?
Either
So
way, we
there
have
is
to
a
vet them,
distinction.
but
This is
yes.
not sending money to TASK. This is not sending money to ABC charity. These are county projects that I am proposing, similarly to what we have done with $137 million.
Sure.
Correct.
We knew at least some of the context on those projects where we don't necessarily have that in this way. So even, yes, if y'all set them aside, whether it's a county entity or not, they have got to be reviewed.
You can't have one beneficiary trust that's a county entity and another that is not
But a
county
project
entity.
specifically does have to be reviewed, whether it, like same with the detention center, they've had multiple projects. Each of those projects is reviewed on a project level for eligibility.
Reserving the money doesn't preclude the review. It doesn't mean they're getting the money. It means we're setting it aside, just like we did with the $40 million for the behavioral health center. Correct? Okay.
We're just saying these things have to occur.
Okay, so I just want to touch on the let's divide it between the three districts spot. You can't just allocate X number of funds to each district and say spend as you wish. It has to be a board's decision.
Yes.
No one county commissioner can make that decision.
Absolutely. And I completely understand and respect that. Perhaps I didn't articulate it in a way that was very specific in the fact that if we were to essentially split this up evenly between the three districts, that nothing would actually be allocated to the three districts. It would just go, okay, District 2, okay, in my mind, okay, a third of 7.9 is 2.6 or some such. I know in my mind as District 2, that's kind of the chunk of money that I have to sort of consider the needs in my own community, and then bring those needs to the table for approval, pending the risk assessment and all of that.
You know, you're going back to kind of the road issue.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Even if the recipients, potential recipients that are considered, serves the entire county as a whole?
I'm saying, I don't think
Okay.
So let me suggest, we have some people here to discuss at least two of the items that I've put on. I would like to give them the courtesy of being able to present, and then you guys can decide what you want to do. But
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I just, before we got into that and any other asks that were on the agenda, I just wanted to wrap my head around the overall process in which we plan to use to kind of vet these options to satisfy these needs. And so, if the portal is a process that we have to go through, it seems like yes, it satisfies the need from a risk assessment point of view as far as you being able to vet out the applicants. But it sounds like it's not going to even be available for another month. And I was concerned about considering some of these other asks on the agenda because I feel like we would then be offering special treatment for those by not directing them to go to the portal. Am I wrong in thinking that?
for
I think
those
that's-
non-governmental county projects, I think you're exactly right. Thus, my item to reserve $4 million for use within the portal is appropriate.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion on item number 10? Did you have anything else?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple more updates there for item 10. So, and these are quick. Just for training, we worked hard with purchasing and Chantel's office to develop the process and requirements for governing the compliance framework, which kind of blends existing county procurement processes and procedures with the federal requirements, and to help the county administer the funds. We owe the department some training on this, and this was acknowledged in the last P&G meeting. So we're working on that. We're going to pilot it, I think today or tomorrow morning, with Chantel and the sheriff's office to get that going, and then we'll kind of iron out any wrinkles that might exist, and then get it out to the rest of the departments. And then one last quick thing on community sessions, we did successfully schedule and lock down the venue and dates for the D2 and D3 community sessions in mid-February.
So we don't
That's all I have for item 2.
We don't have the portal up yet, or something to look at.
Right.
Portal.
I'll give you our documentation on it after this meeting.
Okay.
All of you, not just Chelsea.
Thank you.
you did share a PDF
Do you want to see it in this moment? Do you want to see it in this moment?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, please. That would be fantastic.
Before we leave this item, then, I'll make a motion to receive the documents that were about to be presented.
Perfect. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 And then I move we receive the discussion.
All right. We have a motion to receive discussion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Do we move on to item 11 or?
Well, Danny said that she had something that she could show us.
Oh, I think she had emailed it to the clerk's office with our deck. It's not this, it's not this presentation. It's, yeah.
This is just the beginning of that intake form. It would be several pages into our departments that have applied for funds through the county. It will look very similar, except for changes when it comes to the risk assessment and things of that nature. So this is the kind of basic information. The highlighted pieces would be where we were time boxing, letting people know you only have until X date to get your submission in. Then valuable resources underneath, taking people straight to the final rule and other guidance and FAQs. And then from that, this would be levels of information that would be filled out. You would have the basic requester information. What is the organization? What is the history? What is your contact information? You know, things of that nature. Then we get into the risk assessment questions, which are the same things we have asked of the PPA and of the detention center as well. So we would get that on the front side. It continues on. After the risk assessment, we get into the project specific information. So what is the project about? What is it being requested for funding amount of? What is, you know, is there a capital expenditure? Is it an infrastructure project? Things of that nature as well. And then we will get into some of the compliance tick boxes as well. So that is an extremely quick kind of overview of what this portal will look like.
What I walked through earlier, I didn't realize we could do this as a visual. So I should have had it up as I was walking through. I apologize for that.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to get this compiled.
Okay.
Do we have any more discussion on this? All right. Okay, so then, if we could, I would like to just go ahead and go back through, starting from the beginning here.
Can we hear from those people that have come down?
Absolutely. And so who do we have here available to speak?
Item 16, Mr. Davidson is here.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to item number 16.
Thank you all. My name is Jared Davidson. I'm general counsel to the County Home Finance Authority. And we have kind of been, of course, an intimate part of a lot of the assistance and recovery programs that the county has undertaken, of course, namely being the ERA program. We actually had a meeting in December where we had been approached by numerous county partners. Those could be private developers, could be individual developers, could be nonprofits, and governmental entities. And they had kind of, they had solicited a request from County Home Finance to make an ask for ARPA dollars, basically for some of these affordable housing initiatives. We worked through, we didn't make any definitive decisions, but the next week, the county allocated all but $7 million of the remaining requests. And so we just wanted to be able to have that opportunity to come before you. We were not clear of what the exact process was going to be for what has been outlined. If that's the process you so choose, we will participate gladly in that process. We feel like we are an internal applicant because we are a county beneficiary public trust, just like some of the other applicants. But the real impact and story, I'm going to let Aubrey McDermott from City of Oklahoma City speak to this specific project. We think this is where the greatest impact can be had. And the reason for that is because we are in this great transition period where the ERA assistance has all been expended. We still have a significant population of our county community that is experiencing homelessness, is unhoused, and their rental assistance is coming to an end or soon will be unhoused as a result of eviction proceedings and those kinds of things. Rather than restart and kind of continuing and perpetuating that cycle, it's our opinion and belief that the best thing that we can do is to offer permanent supportive housing kind of as the next transition to our community. So I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Aubrey McDermott to provide some specific details on where we think this best allocation can be used for county home finance. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Davidson. Good morning. My name is Aubrey McDermott. I'm Assistant City Manager for the City of Oklahoma City. I've been in charge of the management of our CARES funds, ERA funds, and now our ARPA funds. And so I think Mr. Davidson really expressed kind of our process at the city in thinking through how to leverage this hopefully once in a lifetime opportunity to put money back into our community to help people the most where it's needed. The City of Oklahoma City put together a plan, much like the county is doing for the expenditure of our ARPA dollars. One of the categories that the city reserved was $8.25 million of our ARPA funds to put back into the community to build affordable housing. The reason that we made that a priority in one of our three categories of the city's ARPA funds is because the city is really, and the county, is experiencing a real lack of truly affordable housing at the extremely low to low income levels. And I think as we've all witnessed through the course of the pandemic, this lack of affordable housing and the factors that have influenced the economy in terms of just economic impacts, job market, and those things have really exacerbated the number of people that are falling into homelessness, finding themselves homeless. Our numbers of chronic homeless have shot up in the last 2 years. So the City of Oklahoma City is putting forth some very aggressive strategies to housing. The key to that is not just the stabilization that we're doing through emergency rental assistance, which is expiring, but it's to make this housing readily available now. So the City of Oklahoma City strategy for this was to leverage some of our ARPA housing so that we can get in front of MAPS. We do have dollars and MAPS set aside for homelessness, but those dollars are going to be, put forth over the next 5 years in building out affordable housing, whereas our ARPA funds, which meet the same criteria as your ARPA funds, have to be expended within a specific time frame in the next 2 years. So we felt like that was the best use of these funds. I have a lot of statistics and numbers about the rental market and the housing market that exists in Oklahoma County, the gaps in that, the ability for projects to be placed within a year within Oklahoma County. We put out an RFP in July that conforms to all of the federal guidelines for the use of ARPA funds. We are held to them just as you are, so these are eligible projects. We received 21 proposals that totaled $49 million. Every one of our housing proposals is within Oklahoma County, also within the city limits of Oklahoma City. We were only able to fund $8.25 million of those. But our $8.25 million is going to stretch to assist 600 affordable housing units being built or renovated within Oklahoma County. So since our program is already in place, we already have submittals without enough money to stretch those dollars further, we were hoping to partner with the county in stretching ARPA funds even further with ready-made projects on the ground to meet immediate needs. So if this is something that the county wishes to do in partnership with Oklahoma City, I think it's in alignment with what the County Home Finance Authority's goals would be as a trust in administering that program. It would be truly a partnership where the county can take a look at Oklahoma City's process, take a look at our proposals, even of the list of the proposals that we were unable to fund, to have consideration of which of those projects would be amenable to the county. So I just wanted to express that is in place. I think that this procedure has already been very well established and vetted in terms of legal requirements, that it would be an easy process for you to validate, meets all the ARPA requirements, and is something that we could offer the management of to take the burden of that off of the county and starting for something from scratch. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond.
No, I just appreciate you taking the time to come over and explain, Jared, you as well, what we're trying to do to address some significant needs in the county. And it's comforting to hear you say that the city has already vetted these for conformance with the ARPA guidelines, which should give comfort to my colleagues that moving forward and reserving this money won't be a waste. So unless y'all have questions, I'm going to move that we recommend to the board that they reserve $2 million for use for affordable housing projects within Oklahoma County in conjunction with the Oklahoma County Home Finance Authority, the City of Oklahoma City, and or other governmental entities within Oklahoma County.
Okay, I do actually have a couple of questions. I know you had mentioned, the affordable housing in conjunction with the 600 units, as well as emergency rental assistance. So of the $2 million, can you tell me which, would it be split evenly amongst both of these?
This would just be for the construction of affordable housing units.
Okay, so
because
it would
our-
be specifically for the construction. of-
Correct,
okay.
because the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which is a separate program,
Mhm.
has already sunset on one
Okay.
of the programs and is still being continued through community cares partners. So yes, we're managing that program completely separately from
Okay.
the affordable housing construction program that we're running through the ARPA process.
Okay, and of this construction program, which I think it's fantastic, by the way. So where are these units being built? How do you acquire the land? Can you just kind of
Yeah.
give me a brief overview of that process?
Certainly, I was really excited when we saw the proposals come in from the 21 proposers because the majority of the proposers already have projects in the works. These are projects that they've leveraged multiple sources of funds to get done. Several of them are using LIHTC funds. They're leveraging all other kinds of funds just because of cost of construction and all kinds of things. All of these projects that have been in queue in the last several years have accrued all of these additional costs and gaps in funding that have made them panic because they've got to complete these projects and there's such a demand.
Mhm.
And then comes along this opportunity for assistance and another source to layer into these. So a lot of these projects are shovel ready to go. They're scattered throughout the Oklahoma County and Oklahoma City overlap area. I have a list of the ones that Oklahoma City has already shortlisted for funding. And I was also really happy to see that of all of these projects that submitted, every single one of them has more than a 20-year guaranteed affordability period. They weren't required to have more than a 20-year affordability period, but they do. And they are really stretching into all different areas and supporting women and children coming out of shelters to people with disabilities to veterans. They're just all over the place in the type and in the reach of those projects.
Okay.
I have a list of the projects that we were unable to fund, and I can verify that they all fall within Oklahoma County, but I can't tell you specifically within the districts where they fall, but I can get you that information.
That'd be great if you have it.
A process question for Jared. When this money is allocated for this purpose, your board would then determine which projects you're wanting to participate in. Is that correct? Based upon,
It would be our thought that we would kind of undertake that full review of the RFPs
Correct.
that have been submitted to City of Oklahoma. Because that's our mission, is to support affordable housing.
And so for these units that are going to be available for occupants to come and dwell there, as far as sustainability, what does that look like go forward? So are each of the occupants responsible for their own dwelling? I mean, is it theirs to own? Are they renting? What is that process once you have occupants?
Yeah, of the 9 projects that Oklahoma City has been shortlisted, it
Mhm.
ranges from single family owner occupied
Mhm.
to actual permanent supportive housing. It's a range of the different types of structures, housing structures. So some will be rentals, some will be overseen through case management, and some are single family owner product.
Mhm.
So it just depended on the proposals, and in the proposals that kind of ranked at the top of our list, it's a pretty wide range of different types, which we were pleased to see because we know we
Yes.
have needs across the spectrum.
Right. Okay. All right. Do we have any other discussion?
And how many units do you anticipate the 2 million adding?
It would be however you all structure the recipients of that, because some of the proposals were units of 15 per complex, and then there might be scattered sites that achieve 35 units. So I think it depends on who you deem to be, where your needs fall. And then what we tried to do is we tried to structure our 8.25 to leverage the maximum amount of units we could get. We ended up negotiating with every single one of the recipients because we knew that we couldn't give them their full ask. So that was really kind of a deliberative process that the city went through, and I'm sure that if the county were to go through a process similar to that, that you would set your own criteria and evaluate the need.
And that wouldn't be us or the Board of County Commissioners. That would be Home Finance that is evaluating those and determining those criteria, of which we each have an appointee to that body. But it wouldn't be us or our bosses.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'm not going to second right now.
Okay. I would like to say, in considering what you had said about consistency, the fact that this is essentially a partnership with an Oklahoma County Home Finance Authority, as well as the City of Oklahoma City. We have taken those individual asks that are in conjunction with other county programs separately from the typical portal application process. And so in considering that, I will second Joe's motion.
Appreciate that.
Okay?
That's fine. I want to call out, there has not been a separate process. Everything you guys have seen at a P&G meeting has gone through the county portal. It was previously opened. We closed it prior to November. We closed it on November 23rd. Any proposal that was seen on the screen or brought up in a P&G meeting for consideration was submitted through that portal. None of these have been submitted through any form of portal. This is the first. Just want to make the distinction.
Okay. So then I will add a caveat to my second, that of course, assuming it goes through the proper risk assessment process and then just ensures that it is in fact eligible to receive these funds.
Right.
So, okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Just add, the reason I'm voting no is just because I think that it would be good to streamline the process and have all of the proposals through the portal in a streamlined way. And so that's why I'm voting no on that.
Okay, so if you guys would indulge, I would like to go back to number 15. Can we do that? Perfect. Okay, item number 15, discussion and possible action to receive a presentation from the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Services concerning the relocation of Griffin Memorial Hospital to Oklahoma County.
Morning. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Heath Hayes. I serve as the Chief Communications Officer for the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, which means I know a little bit about a lot of different things. And today I'm here to talk to you about our ARPA project to potentially move Griffin Memorial Hospital to Oklahoma County. We've operated Griffin. It has been in operation as a first psychiatric hospital since 1890. And since 1890, it's pretty much the same. And so we have been desperately trying to figure out how to build a new hospital. And when ARPA came, the opportunity to pursue some of those dollars, we went through the legislative process and the governor's process to be able to secure $87 million to help us build a new state-of-the-art psychiatric hospital, not only to replace the 100-year-old building that is currently in operation, but also add additional beds because we know that the acuity of folks experiencing mental health and emotional distress and addiction issues has increased substantially, and we project that it will continue to increase over time. And so we, being in an operation since the 1890s, we have a lot of land in Norman, 660 acres of land, because we used to have our own cattle farm, our own ranches. We had to sustain ourselves as a huge footprint. Over 3,000 people used to receive services at Griffin Memorial Hospital at one point in time. Today, there's 120 beds in operations. And so we have been approached by a lot of different entities to purchase that land. It's primo spot in Norman. And we have a market value of about $50 million and several offers on the table to move. It's a lot more attractive for the people who are interested in buying it if we were to vacate the land. And so we've been looking at different potential areas to build. In Norman, there's some other land that we could kind of carve off that's away from the major 660 acres that we could build on. But then we've also been approached by a lot of philanthropic communities here in Oklahoma County who really want to see Griffin relocated to Oklahoma County. And so the gap of funding with the sale of the land and the ARPA money that we've received through the state legislature is about $10 million, which would prepare the land that is over there by Mathis Brothers, south of OSU OKC. OSU owns that land, is willing to deed it to us in good faith and partnership, but there's a cost associated with moving the hospital and then also clearing and preparing the land to be able to be built, the 330-bed hospital. And so we've had almost $8.5 million raised so far in commitments from different philanthropic communities, the Arnell Family Foundation, Gaylord Family Foundation, Inasmuch Foundation, several different foundations that are interested to bring that here. And so we're about $1.5 million away from our $10 million goal to bring Oklahoma the new psychiatric hospital. And just to kind of give you some facts and figures of why a lot of people are interested to bring it to Oklahoma County, is that it employs about 553 jobs. These jobs are on average pay about $47,000 from a range of technical individuals who provide services to psychiatrists, to administrators, etc. Those will be 253 new jobs to Oklahoma County. So because we're adding capacity to the hospital itself. So that is, we'll serve about 1,200 people every year with the capacity of the hospital, which is it's a great thing to be able to expand the number of people that we'll serve, because the people who are served at this psychiatric hospital, Griffin Memorial Hospital, are the most severe instances. So people who are indigent, people who have no financial means to receive services anywhere else, and also have the highest acuity levels and the most complex needs. And so this hospital will serve everybody, regardless of their ability to pay.
I think I recall, did the city of Oklahoma City also partner with you all in this effort?
So the city of Oklahoma City, we're on their agenda for the 31st. So we've had some verbal conversations, and I think they're looking at about $1 million as well.
And in addition to residential treatment, my understanding is that it will also bring outpatient services as well. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll have the whole array of services that will be provided at this site location.
Those services would be available to anyone within the community?
Absolutely.
So thus another layer of service.
That's not necessarily here right now at this moment. Yeah.
All right. And then understanding that should the department decide that they're going to stay in Norman, the $1 million that we potentially may contribute would then be returned to.
Yeah,
the dollars need to remain within Oklahoma County.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So you said at one point, so do you currently have 120 beds?
Currently, there are 120 beds in
And
operation.
do you anticipate that to increase if you were to move to this new proposed location? Or would you remain at a 120 bed capacity?
So what we would do is we would consolidate some of the operations that we have in Norman.
Mhm.
So we have leased out a wing of a not slightly 100-year-old building to an operator. We would add those beds to this new site location, and then we'd also operate a children's psychiatric hospital in Norman, and we would move them with us. So we would add all of those beds together, plus add an additional 100 beds to be able to meet the need. So a total of 330 beds, from 120 to 330 beds.
Well, and I appreciate that you mentioned, because that was going to be one of my questions as far as the jobs, the new jobs that you are now creating by
Yeah.
being able to expand in this manner. You said 253 jobs,
253 new jobs. Mhm.
and then a total of 330 beds.
Total of 330 beds.
Okay.
And a total of 553 jobs.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion?
It sounds like a worthwhile and worthy cause. I'm gonna just stay consistent. I think that this is something that should be applied for in the regular process that we've been discussing. So, yeah, that's my comment on it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
for
you.
coming down and
Appreciate it.
explaining
Thank you.
the importance of this project. With that, I'll move that we recommend to the board to reserve $1 million from ARPA for use in partnership with the state of Oklahoma and or other government entities within Oklahoma County to relocate Griffin Memorial to Oklahoma County. Obviously, if a decision is made for them to locate the hospital outside of the county, our contribution would not be needed.
Okay, we have a motion, and I would also like to say that, Chelsea, I completely understand your concern. I have the same concern to remain consistent. And I know, however, I feel like this particular agenda item, it addresses the issue of mental health and substance services. We have previously made other specific asks related to such services as well in this manner. I feel like this is also a time-sensitive issue. And so I feel like this particular item could even alleviate some issues within our own incarceration levels. I just feel like it can serve a wide range within our community. And because it will be a partnership, I will second the motion to approve the $1 million for ARPA to go to the relocation of Griffin Memorial. The caveat that those dollars stay in Oklahoma County, and also the caveat that it goes through the proper risk assessment process and it deems that it is eligible. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion carries. Okay, and so if we could, I'd like to just go back up to the top here to departmental items number 3. Discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to allocate up to $1 million from ARPA towards the community organization 401 Kids, Inc. for the purpose of constructing a home to shelter youth from prostitution and human trafficking.
So I'll go ahead, again, staying consistent with the process. I will move to strike 3 through 7 and encourage those organizations to go through the portal and the regular application process for other community organizations.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, Chelsea, do you want to consider doing all of your items that way? Just
Yeah, 3 through
dispense with
7.
them?
3 through 7.
Second. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Chelsea. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Okay, so then I think we can proceed down and just go in order. So I guess the next order of business would be number 11. Discussion and possible action regarding ARPA consultant and management services project status report.
Perfect. And this will feel a little bit backwards. We're going to do just a quick kind of recap and end of year review, if you will. And we could pull up the deck too. The PD or the PowerPoint, please. Yeah, I think that would. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. I'll keep this brief as much as possible, but just wanted to kind of highlight some things. So, a quick retrospective on some of the highlights and through lines that have been a part of this program since March of 2022. So, we kicked this off with some deep analysis on how the county may use its fiscal recovery funds as it pertains to the jail, and including some extensive applicability to the final rule, comparisons with other similar projects in other jurisdictions, and what options the county might have to move forward with that. This led to the development and execution of an internal proposal process, including training and support to all the county departments as they were thinking through ideas and projects, ideas and developing proposals, and then for the P&G and BOCC to recommend and authorize those as projects respectively. And then this led to the development of our compliance framework, which I mentioned earlier, as we needed to ensure the supporting documentation was produced as departments moved to spend those project funds that they've been authorized. So we've so far been able to submit Treasury reporting on time and without issue, including the redevelopment of the county's recovery plan performance report, which had been previously sent back by U.S. Treasury. And the through lines here involve kind of the run mode of all of these processes, plus ongoing research along the way. So looking at kind of the status of the fund, this slide shows the status of the county's SLFRF by U.S. Treasury's 7 high-level expenditure categories. The blue bars here show how much has been authorized for projects by the BOCC so far, with the pink and red showing the subsequent steps of obligating and expending those funds. You can see a significant portion has gone to Category 1 for the public health related projects, followed by Category 3 to improve public sector capacity. And we'll touch on that more on the next slide. And then lastly, the donut there on the right side shows the total fund, with the gray slice showing that 7.9, and after today's votes, potentially 4.9
Stephen,
remaining.
when you're done, before you leave, can we get a copy of this, please?
Of course, absolutely. Okay. And feel free to stop me along the way too. I'll just breeze through this otherwise. So looking at results from a county impact perspective, as mentioned, the county has invested much of the fund in improving public sector capacity and its own role in public health. By the numbers here, we as a team, we've conducted over 240 hours, interactive hours with the departments. This includes interviews, training, ideating on proposals, what we were calling office hours for a time, just to support them through the process. And these are the hours that I could actually count. So that's why the plus sign is there. We've looked at 97 proposals, triaged and reviewed those for policy and governance. Those turned into 59 projects that have been authorized by the BOCC. And then on the community side, we had over 60 community members attend the very first session we had with District 1. And that went very well. We got a lot of great input from them. And then to that point, the survey that we have posted online, we've collected over 600 data points in terms of community input just through our survey. I'll let the numbers kind of speak for themselves in the middle donut there. And then just some notable projects to highlight here. We've worked with the Emergency Management Department to get projects approved for their emergency operations center, and also a countywide radio system that they're using to support other jurisdictions to get everybody on the same system. The Community Violence Intervention Program is being run by the Sheriff's Office, and then the Juvenile Bureau has a similar program, and they started a new telehealth program, which we thought was very good and great use of the fund. And then lastly, premium pay for county employees. So all the employees who were coming into the office and sort of putting themselves at risk in an exposure of COVID-19, getting them some of that sort of hazard style pay, if you will, with the premium pay category. Lastly, and don't worry, I won't drain this slide, we just wanted to look at the work ahead and keep in perspective as this body discusses and makes decisions about the path forward. One thing to keep in mind here are the variables which are kind of out of our control. For example, what volume of external requests should we expect to get, and how much kind of back and forth is going to be involved to get those to a policy and governance ready state. And then additionally, keep in mind, much of this work pertains to the through lines that I had up there before, which is often done in the background and can often include the most laborious tasks. We may need to ask P&G to help prioritize some of this workload going forward to help manage expectations for everyone. That's that. If there are no questions or comments, we can move on then to item 12, I think.
Do we have any other discussion regarding item number 11? Okay, do we have a motion to receive report?
Yes.
Okay, so moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect. And then I think we have 7 or 11 proposals remaining that are P&G ready. They came through the internal county portal and are available for your consideration. Yeah, you can choose to recommend, archive, request additional info, or defer those.
So just for clarification, and just because I don't know the answer, so these items that you mentioned, are they internal asks, number one?
That's right, they are.
Okay, and have they previously been considered? Have they gone before this body?
Yes, they were all submitted before the portal was closed,
Okay.
and we bring those up pretty much as they're submitted.
Okay.
I think this is the right list. No.
Yeah, this is everything that's been on the database. This is everything that's been authorized sub-recipients. These are everything that's been archived. And then this is the things that P&G has previously seen that have not yet had action taken, whether it was to archive, recommend, so forth.
So P&G has previously seen these
That is
items?
correct.
Okay. All right, any discussion on these items?
I move that we archive 1, 2, 3, 4. My glasses are bad. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Should be 11 of them.
11?
11 projects that are presented.
Okay.
Given that I think this totals around $80 million, is that correct? Approximately.
Yeah, there's not enough for,
Sure,
for this.
sure. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
We do have individual slides if you need them.
Would it be easier, Sharon, if I give you those project ID numbers for the record, or do you have a sheet with those in that format that we can give to the clerk?
Oh yeah, we can share with the slide with her.
Will that work for you? Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? I will second that we archive the 11 items as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so that brings us to item number 13.
This is our approved projects category, right?
Yeah, and we don't have any escalations from our standpoint on this.
Some questions related to some things that we've approved. On those infrastructure items, that we've approved. If I remember correctly, within the rules and regulations, there are certain thresholds that you meet, that you have to submit additional paperwork justifying those projects to Treasury. Is that correct?
That's correct. For capital expenditures, there are thresholds of $1 million and $10 million that have different requirements.
Okay, and of those that we've approved up through today, we being the VOCC, really, what is the status of that process with you all? Where are we at in that?
It's across the gambit. So on several, we're still waiting on additional information to come in, and still looking at kind of the eligibility in developing those written justifications with the sponsors of those projects. For others, they are moving forward, and we're looking into attaining that capital or procuring it. And were there any specific that you had in mind?
I'm just wondering, because we have as of right now, bless you, we have a deadline fixed to the use of these funds by the feds. Do we need to set some type of drop dead date for that information to be presented to you in order for us to actually move forward with the project in order to be successful?
Yeah, and that's going to vary by project. So, for example, one of the larger ones is the $40 million for the mental health facility, the proposed detention center. So there's still a lot of information that we need to obtain and review and spend time with and research, to make sure that we're making the best case for the county as we're developing that justification.
And
so with that one, for example, I could see that stretching out over the course of maybe a month or two.
okay, with regard to others, would it be that similar time frame? So if we were to say that information needed to be used by April 30, set a hard date on that. Is that doable in your estimation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's, again, like kind of going back to that work plan, it's a matter of balancing where we want us to spend our time. So that will come into it. But with the others, I think it would be like a scaled down version of the mental health facility, right? Like it's the simplicity of those projects are lower than the new building of a $40 million mental health.
Those requiring the highest level of additional documentation, the Behavioral Health Center, what else do we have at this point that, off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I know we're looking at a new option for the Emergency Operations Center that I mentioned before, the potential for it to stay, I think, in the Krause location, or not stay there, but stay with the sheriff's office in that location. So that's a little bit more straightforward, and something that we've already had a head start on in evaluating that as a project. Because part of what's required with capital expenditures is that we assess alternatives and then show that we've looked at least 2 alternatives to the proposed project, and showing due diligence and making sure that we're pursuing the best option.
Okay. And because that Emergency Operations Center project may drop below that $10 million mark, I think it's around 11 right now with cost overruns, et cetera. Is that kind of what we were picturing? So if it drops below, those thresholds lessen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So really the biggie that is outstanding is the Behavioral Health Center.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Okay. And you need justifications. You need what else?
Yeah, well, just working through the justifications is a very loaded term. There's a lot to it. We're looking at all the different components of data that we can pull in, like how is this going to impact the population within the detainee within the detention center.
And okay, I guess,
as an example,
who are you looking to provide that to you?
That's something that we've been put in contact with Mr. Tartabono on, and that he has been providing to us, and we've been giving feedback to him.
for? Okay.
Do we have any other discussion? Okay. Do we need a motion to receive report?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to receive a report. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 14, Ms. Chantel.
This item is a short update regarding an approved project for a court clerk fourth floor remodel. One of the first steps was to interview architects for this project. That has been completed. I'm just presenting to you today that the evaluation committee completed their score sheets, and they are unanimous to recommend Small Architects to be selected for this work. As normal process, that comes back to committee. Committee would recommend further action, investigation, whatever it may be, or recommendation to the BOCC. So I'm just bringing that to you today.
Okay.
If the committee feels that we can take this recommendation to the BOCC to award, then I will work with the engineering office and the awarded firm to create a contract and get those architect services started.
Okay,
Thank you.
No problem.
any other discussion? All right, thank you, Chantel. Okay, I don't think any action needed, right? Okay, so
I think we need to make a motion.
I
Do
would
you-
just,
do you want a
If the-
motion for you to be blessed to go to the BOCC?
if you would recommend,
Small Architects.
typically it would be recommendation to recommend to the BOCC a selection based on the information I provided to you. Or if you want more information, I can go back to work and come back to you at a later time.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I will move that we make that recommendation to the BOCC.
Okay, do we have a second? I will second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so it looks like we are down to number 17. Discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners that the board reserve $4 million from ARPA for the use by the BOCC or a beneficiary trust of Oklahoma County to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic impacts thereof within Oklahoma County.
Yeah, so this would be, by my count, that would leave about $900,000 that has not been reserved, allocated, recommended, et cetera, if we were to approve this item. And this $4 million would be utilized once the portal is up to make awards to projects within the community that meet the established criteria. So it's just setting aside a pool of money to use in the community.
And you didn't want to round that up to the full remaining, the 4.9.
Well, we can't go up.
Well, no, I understand that, but was the 4 million here deliberate as far as leaving 900,000?
At the time that I put this item on, I was unsure of the exact amount. It had hovered between 7.7, and then today it was 7.9. So we could always come back and put the balance in if you'd like. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'm okay with it. I think that it's better just to not mess with this agenda item because I think that the remaining money will go to the portal and go to community projects. So I'm more inclined just to strike this item and leave the remaining funds to go to the portal.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got a motion to approve it already, and I appreciate that it's assumed that the money will actually go into the community, but until such time it's recommended to the board to reserve those funds, there's no guarantees. So this is not a lot of money that could go a long way towards helping our constituents. So I'm ready to go ahead and recommend that the board reserve the 4.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have any other discussion? And do we have a second? Okay. Motion dies for lack of a second. And do we have any more discussion or another motion? Striking. Do you want a motion to do that, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move to strike number 17.
Okay. We have a motion on the table. Any discussion? Okay. I will actually second that motion.
I have a question. At what point in time do you anticipate that we'll actually see something definitive in terms of reserving money for use in the community?
Seeing something as far as what?
A dollar amount.
Well, I'm kind of in line with Chelsea. I mean, we have a remaining balance of about 4.9.
So
Certainly we can't.
I can expect an item the next time we meet reflective of that.
If you'd like to put that on the agenda, then absolutely.
Not me. I said I'd do the 4 million today and put the other 9, and you've didn't second the first motion. Now you're going to strike it. I'm asking you all when you're going to put an item on that lets the public know that you're serious about putting money into the community.
Well, I think I proved my actions very clearly today by not voting for the other items, including the items that, were previously recommended by our previous member. And so I think I've proven myself to hold to that assumption that the 7.9 that was remaining as of last meeting would go to the community. And I thought that was kind of the approach that we had all agreed to before, that the remaining would go to the community.
Well, we can agree all day, but until either this group or the board actually reserves those funds, there is no money available to the community. So here we're talking about opening up a portal for the community and not having any dollars associated with it, whether it's the projects that were presented by the previous commissioner in District 3 or some that might be presented by people in District 2 or those in District 1. So if you all aren't willing to set aside some definitive amount, why are you even going to open up a portal?
I was willing to put aside 7.9, but that number is now 4 million after today. So that's what I was willing to do before.
My attitude about it is we all know that we have 4.9 million available. I don't necessarily feel like we have to actually designate it. That is what we have available. So I don't really see the need to actually designate it. I mean, we all know what we have available for that. We all have full intentions on moving forward with the portal and our respective town hall meetings, regarding such. I don't think a specific item is going to be needed to designate that. And so for that, I second the motion. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. No, I'm sorry. I was ready to adjourn.
Those opposed?
You guys beat me up so much, I'm trying to get out of here.
All right, motion carries. Okay, citizen participation. Do we have any citizens here to participate? Seeing none, board comments? District 3?
No comments.
Okay. I guess my comment would be, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. District 1?
Thank you for coming up and joining us. You do a great job.
Likewise.
All right. Any new business? All right. We have a motion to adjourn here.
Yes, that was the one
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.